Is this thing on? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so here we are for our long overdue Q&A video. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, but like life's been lifing. Guys DM me all the time questions that I really want to answer, but it's so hard to give a detailed, honest answer in a DM, especially like on Instagram or something like that. You only get a few amount of characters and I'd be going in. So I'm glad that we're here to make this video. I did not select specific questions. I opened up a forum on my Instagram channel and I just let anybody ask anything. So I haven't looked at the questions yet, but I do have them here. You know and can feel you're supposed to be doing something else, but don't quite know what that is. How do you get that clarity? We are human beings. So I always say that the human side of us is tied to the world, our physical senses, the people around us, external factors, while the being side of us is tied to our spirit, our intuition, our thoughts, dreams, goals, and desires, all the things that we feel and know, all the things that we experience but can't quite see, but know are there. They have essence and presence and influence on our lives, but we just don't see them. And so the way to live like the best human experience is by balancing the two, but it gets very tricky and it gets very hard. And that's where a lot of struggles come in as human beings, is balancing both worlds. First of all, even acknowledging that we have two worlds. A lot of people don't do because we weren't taught that. But we know that there's something within us that we cannot see. So external factors change all the time. People around us change, the weather changes, situations change. We can't promise that we're gonna have a job that we had today, tomorrow. So the human side of us, the worldly side of us that we experience changes all the time. But our intuition is kind of like our internal guidance system. Although it changes, it is very specific to us and our journey and what we're supposed to do. The physical world is tailored to everybody, while our intuition in our inner world is tailored to us. So it's always best to trust your inner world and intuition over society. The problem is, no matter what, we are going to be influenced by the physical world. We're going to be influenced by society, the people around, the things that we see, hear, touch, feel. Our senses are being impacted all the time. Now, confusion comes about when we know something intuitively, but the outside world does not match that. And unfortunately for us, that happens often. So as you asked, when you know you're supposed to be doing something else, that knowing is internal, but you can't quite figure out what that is. That shows that there's some type of imbalance because you know, right? You use the word you know. It's a feeling inside that is tailored specifically to you. The reason why you don't quite know what it is because you're looking on the outside for reinforcement, for validation, for something to confirm what it is that you already know. Don't do that. The outside world is influencing what you're receiving, whether you notice it or not. You could be a person that's like, I don't even care about what other people have to say. I'm not into peer pressure, but you don't have a choice. So it's really about figuring out how to balance the two. So in order to gain clarity when there is that confusion is by isolating. I know. Isolation is really hard for a lot of people, but it's so important. And I'm not talking about for like a lifetime. You know, people are afraid of isolation because it's lonely, right? But most of the times, that isolation that you've experienced loneliness and sadness in was brought upon you, and that's why it felt uncomfortable. But when you choose to self-isolate, that's actually empowering. When you say, hey, I'm gonna withdraw from society. I'm a little bit confused. I'm trying to gain clarity on a specific thing, so I'm gonna withdraw. I'm gonna isolate as much as I can, because obviously we have to live life with other people. And I'm going to see what I can get when I have a clean slate. We never get an intuitive feeling without the facts to follow. So if you get a feeling that I'm supposed to be doing something else, immediately after that, you get the facts to follow what you're supposed to be doing. We're not just like designed to like get a feeling and then we're on our own. It comes as a package. That feeling comes with facts and ideas and places to go in our physical reality that will help us and support us getting that dream to come true. When you only feel a feeling that, hey, there's something that I should be doing different, and you don't have the facts to back it, it's not that the facts are not there. It's simply that you are not in the receiving mode. Sometimes people could get the feeling to shift and immediately know what to do, how to shift. But others have lives that are a little louder, a little more distractions. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more opinions in their life. And even if it's not people's opinions, it's just things going on. And so we are not able to be in that receptive mode. And that makes us confused. I know I should be doing something. I just don't know what to do. That when you have that feeling, that is because your physical reality is overpowering your inner. So what I've seen to work for many is having a season of isolation where it's literally quiet. Sometimes you're getting those internal nudges. You're getting that like, oh, do this, oh, do that. But because the world is interfering, constantly engaged in your physical reality, you miss them. It's really that simple. So just know that you will never get an internal nudge to shift or do something else or be somewhere else, and it's not followed by what you should be doing. You're just simply missing it. You don't want to just be in isolation and just like not do anything. Some people can. Some people can just be in isolation, sit with the downloads. And isolation doesn't mean 24/7. It just means giving periods of time throughout your day, throughout your weeks, throughout your month, throughout your year, where you are by yourself intentionally seeking the answer. So in isolation, you could do things like journaling, writing things down, setting your intentions on paper, talking about your desires, the things that maybe you want, because maybe what you want and what you're feeling are actually aligned. So when you write them down, you can see where they overlap. Spend time praying. Prayer is not a religious thing. I say this over and over again. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Prayer is really just like speaking into the world what it is you want so you can invite that back into your reality. That is one way to bridge the gap between our spiritual, our being sides, and our physical, our human sides. Spending time visualizing. So just simply visualizing what it is you want, even if you don't know that you can get it. If you are able to visualize it, it is on its way to you. So isolation helps you to just close the gap between what it is you feel and what it is you're experiencing. We're not really seeking aggressively something specific. The isolation is just allowing ourselves to have a clean slate with no external energies interfering so we can get our downloads, so we can feel and hear clearly what is already trying to be delivered to us. So this person says, I have trouble trusting in connections, both platonic and romantic, after dealing with past karmic trauma and grieving the transition of an old life into new. So betrayal is extremely common, unfortunately. We've all been betrayed in one way or another, but here's the thing. That betrayal tends to linger on. Trusting in connections, platonic and romantic, after dealing with past karmic trauma. We often struggle to move on from the betrayal and the trauma we experienced because we are expecting the other person to kind of give us that closure. Even if we're not expecting the other person to give us that closure, we are seeking from for an external force to influence our peace. We're looking maybe for another partner to prove that people actually love us. We're looking for maybe the relationship with the person who betrayed us to be restored. We're looking for something on the outside to reinforce our healing. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I don't think it's that unfortunate, but if you are somebody who seeks external reassurance, it is slightly unfortunate. We are the only ones that can heal us. Although the pain came from an external trauma, somebody else did the damage, we are the only ones able to reverse it. This is why there are some instances in which people are abused or betrayed and the person does apologize, right? Some people are lucky enough to have the person who did the damage come back and say, hey, look, that was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll do whatever it takes to restore and renew what I've broken. And although that person comes around and does that, the victim still doesn't feel satisfied. Why is that? That is because it is never the external person's job or ability to undo what has been done. That becomes an inner work thing. Now, if you guys want to get a little deep, it was never their job anyway, right? This is why young children are typically the targets. Not even just young children, just vulnerable people are typically the targets for abuse and betrayal. People who are vulnerable because they are more susceptible to allowing things to happen. This is going to sound a little trippy, but nobody actually has the power to do anything to you. Nobody really has the power to make you feel this way or that way. That is all within our own power. So the same way nobody could come in and fix what has been done because that is an internal thing. That is between whether or not you say, hey, yes, this is cool, or no. So when a person comes around and says, I'm sorry, forgiveness is only established when you say it's okay. It's not in the person's sorry. So on the contrast of that, it was never in the person's betrayal. It was in the fact that you felt betrayed. Now, again, this is not to take away from the fact that somebody actually did do something wrong to you. There are things that are morally wrong. You were a victim, but it was because you were vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, there was an open space for that person to step in and make you feel some type of way. This is why manipulators and narcissists and abusers, they stay very far away from people who are not vulnerable, because they know that they can't penetrate that person. They can't get into that person's spirit. They can't break them, because it's never in the action. It's in whether or not the person is able to defend themselves, whether or not that person is going to allow or receive what is being done. I say all that to say, it will become difficult to trust connections, whether platonic or romantic, when you've been betrayed for good reason. But the only way to restore is not in anybody coming to help you or save you. The only way to build back trust is by trusting yourself. We cannot build back trust by trusting others, because it was others who did something to us in the first place. But we can build back confidence and trust and reassurance in the world by showing up for ourselves over and over and over again. So when we go through traumatic experiences and betrayal, that creates synapses in the brain, where the brain says, okay, this world is untrustworthy. So in order to undo that, we would have to build new connections in our brain that says, hey, the world is kind of trustworthy. And because we cannot control other people, we have to simply rely on ourselves. We have to create new connections through showing up for ourselves over and over again. And that will establish a new experience in the mind that says, hey, you know what? There is trust in this world. You see, the brain is not looking for trust from one person or another. The brain is trying to establish trust, period. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're getting trust from an external force or whether you're building that trust within yourself. Those synapses of trust will be established regardless. The brain doesn't know the contrast between the emotions. The brain just knows that, hey, we've been betrayed. But if you can show up for yourself over and over, the brain will now say, hey, we're not experiencing betrayal anymore. So it's less about getting it from the outside and more about starting to show up for yourselves in ways that the brain now establishes new connections in its mind that say, hey, we haven't experienced betrayal in a while. We've been showing up for ourselves over and over again. And you know what? We've shown up for ourselves so much time. We don't even care about the betrayal that happened, because now the way that we showed up for ourselves is what's taking over. That builds the new connection. The beauty in that is that once you've established new neural connections in your mind, once you've shown up for yourself so many times and established those connections, you now carry a certain energy. Now we're going from neurological and biological science into spirituality. You know, I like to tie in both. The brain emits an electromagnetic field. This electric-magnetic field is basically our aura. It's the field that is around us, and that is established by our emotions, our beliefs, our mindsets, our neural connections. And so when we establish new neural connections, we basically build a new aura. And so now this magnetic field around us, this aura, makes us attractive to certain things. So now, if we carry an aura of no defeat, an aura of trustworthiness because you've shown up for yourself, we now become eligible to attract other people, other situations, other things that are in alignment with trustworthiness, with showing up. We will attract a person who shows up for themselves as well. We will attract situations where people respect us. We will attract trustworthy people because we've shown up for ourselves, established those neural connections, reinforced the new aura, and we are now attracted to those things. So it's really like a win-win. So if you're somebody who has experienced betrayal, defeat, you don't have to fall into that. You don't have to look for that person to come back and apologize or heal you. You don't have to look for anything on the outside to restore that balance. All you would have to do is continuously show up for yourself, pray over yourself, do the hard things for yourself, congratulate yourself. It's not going to be easy, especially if somebody's broken you. It's not going to be easy to change the story in your mind, but push for it. Because when you push for it, you're developing something new. You carry a new energy when you do that. And with that new energy, you're not going to come across somebody who betrays you again, which then reinforces the new connections that you've established in your brain. Your brain says, oh, so it happens on the outside too? And so yeah, show up for yourself. It sounds shallow, but try it and come back and tell me how. Sometimes it is as simple as doing the work with yourself and having it being reflected in the world. What we get out there is what we have in here. I'm in a narcissist marriage and trying to leave safely. I'm educated, but haven't gotten hired yet. I have everything, but I'm still here. Why? Okay. So being with a narcissist can really confuse you because you can have it all and they still have the potential to manipulate you in a way that makes you feel like you have nothing without them. So for starters, most therapists are not going to tell you to stick around a narcissist. That disorder is a personality disorder. Those disorders are deeper than just your average mood disorder, maybe like depression or, bipolar or something of that nature. It takes honesty, transparency, and deep unpacking to release yourself of that personality disorder. And a lot of times narcissists don't believe that they're narcissists, and that's the problem. When you're depressed, you can be like, I'm feeling depressed. We can treat you through that. If you're feeling anxious, if you have anxiety, you could say, I'm feeling anxious. We could treat you through that. A lot of treatment in helping people with disorders starts with the person acknowledging that they have an issue, right? And so people who have NPD, they don't acknowledge it. And so that's why therapists say, it's safer to stay away. Now, in regards to knowing that you're in danger and still sticking around, that's not tied to your partner. When saying something like, I'm educated, but I haven't found a job yet, you are bringing forth an underlying insecurity or uncertainty that lingers within your mind. So, although you are saying that I have everything, that doesn't mean that you believe you have everything, because if that was something that you truly believed deep within your spirit, deep within your psyche, you would be able to leave at the drop of a dime. When we feel full, whole, when we feel like we do have everything, we are more flexible. We are not afraid to move. We can go from one part of a journey to another, jump from task to task, because we have that confidence that we have everything. We attract people into our lives based on our energetic standpoint. Not everybody comes across narcissists in life, especially because narcissists are not attracted to people who are confident. They're not attracted to people who are certain. That makes their job as manipulators very difficult. So majority of people who do come across narcissists and end up even being in relationships with them, there are always some underlying uncertainties that just need to be unpacked. Now, this is not to say that you're not a confident person. This is to say that there may have been a series of unfortunate events. There may have been people that you were exposed to growing up who normalized certain things that have now impacted who you are today, not only psychologically, but energetically. For example, if you witnessed toxic relationships in your life, although you yourself know, hey, this is something I don't stand for, you may behave in that same way unconsciously because that is what you were exposed to for an extended period of time. So this is why doing that inner work and unpacking is really important, because that's when you start to assess hey, this is not who I am, but maybe I'm mimicking the behaviors of what I've been exposed to. So to answer your question, you're staying although you have everything because you're afraid or uncertain, which are pretty synonymous. So you have two options. You can either stick around while you do the work and assess your past relationships with your mother, your siblings, your other significant others, and see where it is that you started developing the behaviors of accepting something that you know is not for you. Or you can prove to yourself that you are capable by leaving before you're prepared. A lot of people wait to feel prepared before they take that leap without realizing that it's in taking the leap that prepares you. We wait to have all the resources before we go off, but it's in the going off that lays out your resources. So if just walking away seems too much for you right now, stick around, but make sure you're doing that inner work. Why did I attract a narcissist in the first place? Why have I normalized certain behaviors? Why do I know I have everything but still feel like I have to stay? There's nothing holding me back. Who have I seen in my past that have normalized being in this kind of relationship? But if you are ready to go, do it and know that what you need will come as you start to move. You don't have to wait to be prepared to do something. It's in the doing that prepares you. So I don't want this video to be too long. I'm gonna answer the rest of the questions in another Q&A. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and join my channel on Instagram. I'm gonna put my profile in the description. Join my channel, ask your questions, interact with me. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Love y'all forever.